Rain fell like glass breaking against the concrete, sharp, endless cold. The streets of downtown Atlanta glistened under the yellow streetlights, puddles swallowing reflections of passing cars. And there, beneath one flickering lamp, stood a girl no one noticed. Her name was Nia, barely 16, too thin for winter. Her coat hung heavy with water, sleeves torn at the ends. She held a paper cup in one trembling hand, the other clutched against her chest, as if to keep her heart from falling out. Coins clinked every time she moved, small, metallic reminders of how invisible she was. But then she opened her mouth. Her voice slipped through the rain, soft at first, then rising like light through fog. A voice that didn't belong to the streets. It was the kind that makes you stop walking, the kind that carries stories from pain to hope. She sang an old gospel tune her grandmother used to hum in their kitchen back before everything fell apart, before eviction, before hunger became a daily word. Her voice trembled on the edges of the melody, but she never stopped, because this was all she had, her song, her dignity, her way of saying, "I'm still here." Across the street, two police officers sat in their cruiser, engine idling, coffee steaming between them. The younger one leaned forward, squinting through the windshield. "You see that?" The older one chuckled. "Yeah, guess we found tonight's entertainment." Nia's song kept flowing, pure, fragile, like a prayer tossed into the storm. The younger cop grabbed his phone. "Maybe she's auditioning for the trash can," he said, smirking. The other laughed. "Nah, man, let's give the internet a concert." He rolled down his window, phone pointed, red record light blinking. The rain hit her face harder now, but Nia didn't look at them. She just kept singing, eyes closed, body shivering, her voice trying to reach somewhere far beyond that street. Somewhere dry, somewhere safe. "Sing louder, sweetheart," the cop shouted. "We can't hear you over the sound of your failure." Laughter filled the air. It mixed with the thunder, with the sirens in the distance, with the sound of injustice that's been echoing through cities for generations. And still, she sang. She sang because her mama once told her, "Don't ever let them silence your truth." She sang because silence was worse than mockery, because if she stopped, they'd win. Minutes later, their laughter faded as they drove off, still recording, still joking. Nia dropped her gaze to the puddle by her feet, seeing her reflection ripple, her lips pale, eyes red. The coins in her cup were fewer than before. Someone had kicked it earlier. Maybe that's why she sang softer now. Maybe that's why she whispered the last line instead of singing it. But somewhere else, miles away, hours later, the video hit the internet. The caption read, "Homeless girl tries to sing in the rain. Cops can't stop laughing." By sunrise, it had been shared thousands of times, not for her voice, not for her courage, but for their cruelty. The comments were split, some laughing, others angry, most just scrolling past. But one user paused on her face, rewound the clip, turned up the volume, and whispered to themselves, "She's got something." Nia didn't know that yet. She was still sitting under that same streetlight, soaked blanket pulled over her head, body curled against the wall of a closed bakery. The rain had slowed, but the cold still cut deep. Every time she coughed, it sounded like it might be the last. Her stomach growled. Her hands, numb and cracked, tried to warm themselves by rubbing together. She looked at the few coins she'd collected, mostly nickels, a $1 bill, and one damp receipt someone had mistaken for money. Her eyes lifted toward the skyline, the tall buildings glowing like distant stars she could never reach. She whispered into the darkness, her voice faint but steady. "They can mock me today, but one day." Her lips trembled. "One day I'll make them listen." And for a moment, she believed it. The sound of a passing car broke her thought. A couple inside looked away quickly when they saw her. That kind of silence, the kind that pretends you're not there, hurt more than the laughter. Still, she didn't cry, not anymore. She learned that tears freeze faster than courage. Across the alley, An old man with a shopping cart looked up. "Keep singing, baby girl," he said softly, voice raspy from years of the same streets. "They only mock what they fear." She smiled weakly, pulling the blanket tighter. Her breath fogged the air, fading fast. The night seemed endless, but her song, even unspoken, stayed alive inside her. Hours passed. The rain stopped. The streets glistened, empty except for the echo of what had happened. Somewhere in the city, laughter still circled on screens, but so did her voice, that single note that broke through cruelty and reached strangers who didn't even know her name. By morning, a journalist had shared the clip, writing, "Listen beyond the laughter." Nia didn't have a phone to see it. She just woke up, folded her wet blanket, and stood again beneath that same streetlight. Her throat burned, but she began to hum, low, steady, defiant. The world moved on around her. Cars honked, people rushed by, no one stopped, but she kept humming. And maybe, somewhere deep down, the city heard her. Because that's how voices like hers survive, not by being heard right away, but by refusing to disappear. When night came again, the rain returned, softer this time, like an apology. The streetlight buzzed above her. She lifted her face toward it and closed her eyes. Her voice rose once more, trembling but whole, turning pain into melody, loneliness into rhythm. The sound carried across the empty blocks, bouncing off glass and steel, rising toward the sky that never seemed to listen, until now. The city slept, but her song didn't. It drifted past windows, down alleys, through hearts scrolling through their phones, reminding them, even for a second, that dignity doesn't need a stage. It just needs the courage to keep singing in the rain. And that's what Nia did. She sang. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing a person can do in a cruel world is refuse to be silent. Days passed, the internet forgot. The laughter faded like old static. The world moved on to the next scandal, the next viral moment. But Nia didn't. Every dawn, before the city fully woke, she was there, outside the 5-point subway station, her voice echoing through the hollow tunnels of downtown Atlanta. The trains roared past, wind brushing her face, her song cutting through the rush like light slicing through fog. The same song she sang in the rain, the one that carried all her bruises, all her nights of hunger, all her mother's fadding words. She sang it softer now, slower, like she was praying not to be heard by everyone, just by the right person. People came and went. Some tossed coins without looking. Most walked faster, pretending their headphones made her invisible. But Nia kept singing, every day, every morning, rain or shine, because her dream didn't need permission. Her hair had grown wild, her shoes had thinned, but her voice had only grown stronger. It filled the tunnels, bounced off the tiles, rolled through the echoes of strangers' footsteps. There was something sacred about it, something no hunger could erase. Then one morning, as Nia sang the final verse, a woman in a red coat stopped. The color was too bright for the gray day, like she carried her own sun. She didn't move, didn't blink, just listened. The world around them blurred, trains came and went. But Camille Johnson, one of the most respected music producers in the country, didn't hear any of it. All she heard was that voice. That voice, she whispered to herself, almost afraid to break the spell. When Nia finished, her last note trembling in the air, she finally looked up, startled to see someone still standing there. Camille stepped closer. "Where did you learn to sing like that?" Nia's answer came quietly, like it was a secret she'd never told before. "Pain taught me." Camille froze. That sentence carried more truth than any lyric she'd ever written. Minutes later, she was inviting Nia to her studio. "I want to hear that song again," she said, eyes glistening. "But this time, I want the world to hear it too." Nia didn't believe her at first. Too many promises had come and gone. But something in Camille's voice, something honest, maternal, almost protective, made her nod. The next morning, Nia found herself standing in front of a building she'd only ever dreamed of entering. The glass walls reflected her tattered reflection, the hoodie, the faded jeans, the dirt under her nails. She almost turned around. The guard at the front door eyed her up and down. "You lost, sweetheart." "I'm here for a session," she said, her voice steady. He chuckled. "You don't look like you belong here." Before she could answer, Camille appeared behind him, sunglasses low, expression cold. "She belongs more than you ever will." The man froze. The doors opened. Inside, Nia felt smaller with every step. The studio smelled like money, polished floors, gold plaques, soundproof walls. A group of producers stood near the booth, whispering behind their screens. "That her," one muttered, "the girl from the viral videos." "Homeless girls gonna sing," another snickered. Camille shot them a look that could slice stone. "You'll keep your mouths shut and your ears open," she said flatly. "She's got something none of your trained singers do, truth." Nia walked into the recording booth. The mic towered above her. She adjusted the headphones with shaking hands. The room on the other side of the glass blurred. She couldn't tell if they were mocking or waiting. Maybe both. She closed her eyes and sang. The same song she sang in the rain, the same one that carried her through hunger and humiliation. But this time, it didn't echo off wet pavement. It filled a studio lined with silence. Every note quivered with memory. Every breath carried something raw, something unpolished but holy. The sound was small at first, a whisper against perfection. Then it grew. It filled the booth. It seeped through the glass. Camille stopped breathing. The engineers stopped moving. The laughter outside faded into awe. Her voice trembled, then rose higher, the kind of sound that doesn't just touch ears, it grips souls. The final line broke into the air like sunlight through storm clouds. And then silence. Long, heavy, sacred silence. When she opened her eyes, no one was laughing. Every face behind the glass was wet. The same men who had smirked moments ago now wiped their cheeks, pretending it was dust. Camille pressed the intercom button, voice cracking. "One more take." Nia shook her head softly. "That's all I have, that's all of me." Camille smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "That's all the world needs." For the first time in her life, Nia saw what belief looked like, not the kind you beg for, but the kind you earn by surviving. She didn't have a fancy dress, no makeup, no spotlight, but she had a voice that made the powerful speechless. Later that evening, Camille uploaded the raw track, no auto-tune, no effects, just Nia's voice and the sound of truth. The caption read, "The girl they mocked, the voice they couldn't silence." Within hours, millions listened. The same internet that once laughed now listened. The same eyes that had scrolled past her pain now searched for her name. But Nia didn't chase the fame. She just sat on the studio floor after everyone left, whispering the same words she once said to the dark. "They can mock me today, but one day I'll make them listen." And now they did. Because sometimes, all it takes to humble a world that laughs at pain is one voice brave enough to turn it into music. Months later, the world woke up to a new name, Nia Rivers. The girl who once sang under broken streetlight now sang on every radio station across America. Her single, *Raindrops Remember, had become an anthem not just for dreamers, but for anyone who'd ever been told they weren't enough. Every lyric dripped with truth, every note with defiance. The song carried the sound of rain and pain, but also something stronger, rebirth. News anchors called her the miracle from the streets. Talk shows replayed the viral video of her singing in the rain, now side by side with footage of her first live performance, a girl transformed, yet still the same at her core. But for Nia, none of it was about the lights or the numbers. It was about justice, quiet, poetic justice, the kind you can't arrest or erase or mock. Each morning before rehearsals, she'd still hum the old version of her song, the one she sang when no one listened. It grounded her, reminded her of who she'd been before the world began to care. Fame didn't heal her scars, but it gave them purpose. And then came the night that would change everything again, the Grammys. The red carpet gleamed like liquid fire. Reporters shouted questions she never had time to answer. Cameras flashed like lightning as stars in glittering gowns and tuxedos floated past. But when Nia stepped out of the car, in a simple white dress that shimmered like morning dew, the noise around her softened. She didn't look like the others, she looked like herself. Inside the grand hall, chandeliers glowed like golden suns. The air buzzed with anticipation, wealth, and whispers. And among the crowd sat two men in plain black suits, the cops from that rainy night. They were there as security consultants, hired by the event organizers who had no idea who they were. Fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of timing. The men didn't notice her at first. Their eyes scanned the crowd, the stage, the exits, until the announcer's voice echoed through the hall. Performing her Grammy-nominated single, Raindrops Remember, please welcome Nia Rivers. The name hit them like a punch. Both men looked up sharply. The spotlight followed her as she walked onto the stage. The same girl, the same face, the same eyes that once looked at them through a curtain of rain. The older cop swallowed hard, the memory slamming back, his laughter, the video, the cruelty. The younger one shifted in his seat, a tremor running through his hands. Around them, applause filled the room, but to them, it sounded like judgment. Nia stepped up to the mic. The orchestra behind her waited in silence. She looked out at the sea of faces, famous ones, powerful ones, and then, for just a heartbeat, her gaze landed on them. She didn't flinch, didn't smile, just let the silence speak. Then she closed her eyes and began to sing. The first note floated through the hall, soft, haunting, like the whisper of rain on broken glass. Every syllable carried memory. Every breath carried forgiveness she hadn't yet spoken aloud. Her voice rose, weaving pain and grace into one unbroken line of truth. The same song, the same melody they once mocked, but now, under the golden lights, it became something divine. You could feel the air change. The room stilled, even the cameras seemed to pause. Her voice filled every inch of space, stretching between what she'd been and what she'd become. In the third row, one of the cops looked down at his hands that once held a phone, recording her humiliation. His chest tightened. Shame burned through him like fever. The other stared blankly ahead, eyes glassy, unable to meet the stage. As the music swelled, memories crashed over them, her soaked hair, her trembling fingers, her voice breaking through laughter. Now that same voice commanded a world they could never control. The crowd began to rise slowly, as if pulled upward by her sound. By the final verse, the entire hall was standing. Every person was caught between tears and awe. Nia's voice softened as the orchestra faded. She took a breath, the kind that carries both release and remembrance. Then she leaned into the mic and whispered, steady and sure. This is for everyone they laughed at, who kept singing anyway. Her words hung in the air, echoing like thunder rolling after a long storm. And then, applause. A roar of it, a wave of sound so fierce it shook the chandeliers. People cried, people cheered. The room, the cameras, the millions watching at home, all of them felt it. Camille, watching from backstage, pressed a hand to her heart. She discovered many singers, but never a soul like this. In the audience, the two cops remained seated at first, paralyzed between guilt and awe. Then, slowly, one of them stood, not for applause, for apology. The other followed, heads bowed. Nia saw them. For a moment, her smile faltered. Then she nodded once, not to forgive, but to free herself. Because forgiveness, she'd learned, isn't about erasing pain. It's about refusing to let pain own the song. As she left the stage, Her white dress shimmered under the lights, like rain finally catching sunlight. The thunderous applause followed her down the hall. Outside, the night sky was clear for once. No rain, just peace. And somewhere, far from the glamour and the gold, under that same old streetlight, a paper cup still lay dented on the sidewalk, a quiet reminder of where it all began. Because sometimes, the world doesn't remember your pain, it remembers how you turned it into music. After that night, the world saw Nia Rivers as a star, but she never saw herself that way. The Grammys, the headlines, the platinum plaques on studio walls, they were all noise compared to what she really wanted: change. She didn't chase awards, she chased purpose. Because once you've sung through hunger, fame doesn't taste the same. She took the stage that had once felt unreachable and turned it into a bridge, one that led back to those who still stood in the rain. A month after her win, Nia launched the Raindrop Foundation, a home for homeless youth with music in their hearts. She said it simply: talent isn't born in mansions, it's born in struggle. Her mission wasn't charity, it was justice. For every kid who'd ever been told, you don't belong. For every voice drowned out by laughter or poverty. She filled empty rooms with instruments, recording mics, and hope. The same kind of hope that had once been her only companion. The media came, of course. Cameras followed her everywhere. Interviews, awards, talk shows, but she kept bringing the conversation back to them. The kids, the streets, the forgotten corners where art was born from survival. Music doesn't start on a stage, she said in one interview. It starts where the world stops listening. One gray afternoon, she slipped away from the press and visited a small community shelter tucked between two old apartment blocks. The walls were cracked, but someone had painted bright murals over the scars: hands, notes, hearts, clouds. The kind of beauty you only see when people create from pain. As she stepped inside, the faint sound of singing drifted from the hallway. High, trembling, but honest. She followed it quietly, turning a corner, and there she was. A young girl, maybe 13, standing under a flickering ceiling light. Her shoes were torn, her coat too big, her hands shaking as she sang into the emptiness. For a second, Nia saw her younger self, that same trembling courage, that same desperate hope. She waited until the girl finished the song, clapping softly from the shadows. The girl jumped, startled. "That was beautiful," Nia said. The child blinked, recognizing her face. You're Nia Rivers." Nia smiled gently. "I used to be just Nia," she said, "and I used to sing under bad lights too." The girl looked down, shy. "People tell me to stop. They say I'm wasting time." Nia stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Then don't sing for them, sing for yourself. The world will hear you when it's ready." The girl's eyes filled with tears, and Nia, feeling her own echo of pain, whispered, "Keep singing." That moment wasn't filmed for show, but a cameraman caught it anyway, a quiet exchange that would later go viral for all the right reasons. Days later, the internet began sharing an old video again, the one of Nia singing in the rain, the cops laughing in their car. Only this time, someone had edited it differently. It didn't end with mockery. It cut to new footage, one of those same officers standing beside Nia at her foundation, handing out blankets and serving food to the kids. The caption read, "People change when grace gives them a second verse." When reporters asked Nia about it, she didn't say much. She just smiled and said, "Sometimes the loudest apologies aren't spoken, they're lived." And she was right. Redemption had found its way home, just like the rain had once found her voice. In the quiet after fame, Nia's life became simpler. No tour, no flashing lights, just music, laughter, and kids learning to find their sound. Every morning, she'd walk through the shelter halls, hearing new voices echo where silence used to live. She said it made her heart hum again. Her song, Raindrops Remember, still played on the radio sometimes, but that wasn't what mattered anymore. Because Nia had learned something deeper, that the truest legacy isn't written on charts, but in hearts. And so, when the world looked at her story, the girl mocked by cops, who rose to move millions, they saw more than a miracle. They saw a message. Because the world may laugh at your pain until your voice teaches it to listen. And near rivers had taught the whole world how.